This video is brought to you by the Tab for a Cause browser app. Open a tab and you're conveniently donating money to charity as a result. It really is that easy. Link in the description below, more info at the end of the video. Greetings, this is Jazz for JazReviews, back with the undying question: what were the best games of 2014? This is a tough subjective list by any standard, not helped of course by the bitter disappointments gamers suffered in the transition to next-gen gaming. Take note that any remakes or remastered titles like The Last of Us, Grand Theft Auto 5, Master Chief Collection, and even Super Smash Bros. Are ruled out of the list. Cue the top 10 video games that I felt left the biggest and most qualitative mark on the industry. Kicking off at number 10. Infamous Second Son. Throwing electrical energy aside for a more dynamic range of colourful neon and smoke effects, Second Son becomes an empowering case of flashy superhero powers, absent the responsibility. Of course, that is if the player embraces the sheer havoc and collateral damage of bad karma. As if running up buildings had become tedious, the fearful city of Seattle can be traversed in a far more flexible superhuman fashion, sifting through vents in a puff of black smoke. Infamous Second Son is nothing short of maniacally sanctioned superhero anarchy and bedlam. But if that isn't your cup of tea, you could always choose the Blue Vulture good karma path of methodically subduing enemies in a far more rationalized style of pent-up aggression. But sod that.
And of course, the only downside being that, nope, can't think of anything. This is pretty freaking awesome.
At number 9, serving as a completely free of charge playable demo, the downloadable PS4 exclusive, PT. Hideo Kojima teases gamers into what is a declaration of a brand new Silent Hill game. The nerve-wracking repetition of trawling through the same L-shaped corridor is scarier than what anyone could have imagined. From the dubious subtleties of creaking doors, swinging chandeliers, and dimming lights, to more horrifying images of all-out spine-chilling dread. I do believe the game's atmosphere to be one of absolute cryptic genius with a horrendously remarkable attention to detail. If Kojima's visions are consistent with the sheer unpredictability of PT, Silent Hill may very well see the return of freedom of creativity under the banner of Kojima Productions. At number 8, the same unadulterated joyride that managed to turn heads 5 years ago, making a grand return for the Nintendo Wii U, Bayonetta 2. Indulging players with ridiculously sharp combos, graceful animations, and over-the-top hardcore action, Platinum Games have crafted what seems to be one of the most polished, bewitchingly gratifying games since Bayonetta 1. Its curious interpretations of heaven and hell are conceived to provide for the most visually intense boss battles imaginable. Bayonetta 2 is an absurd spectacle of how a sequel can become even more stimulating by the means of a silky smooth combat system, spectacular boss battles, and a collection of focused design choices. And I do believe the nonsensical narrative and its writing to be one of them. At number 7. There has always been something stylish about the Nazis, but machine games have outdone themselves in the wonderful art of killing them. Wolfenstein's A New Order. After 14 years in a coma, B.J. Blazkowicz awakens to a depressingly oppressive alternate world. The 1960s lies host to predictably horrible labor camps and institutionalized Nazi themes. Then again, if you are a fascist, you love to see the Nazi-inspired battery-powered machine guns, mech suits, and canine robotics in action. Wolfenstein even takes players into outer space, landing you in a delightfully or frightfully crafted Nazi moonbase.
I'm on the motherfucking moon.
In the purity of its vision, developers have opted for tank-like arcade shooting mechanics with a classic health regeneration system. It's a step back in the right direction for the series that joyfully skips through a number of dark sequences, dual-wielding things like massively obtrusive shotguns. Because, why not? At number 6. Highlighting class problems between Snow White and the Three Little Pigs. The Wolf Among Us. An intriguing fairy tale murder takes place in a grimy neo-noir New York. In the shoes of Sheriff Bigby Wolf, the player becomes wholeheartedly enthralled in the poverty, corruption, or moral ambiguity of Fabletown's characters.
Get out.
Through Telltale's unpredictable plot devices and decision-making, the journey is one of thought-provoking twists that can at times interconnect with emotionally intense consequences. In the gripping process of playing detective and battering characters via quick-time events, more unsettling perhaps is the question of how far you're willing to push the big bad wolf. Capitalizing upon the jungle antics of hunting tigers with a bow and arrow. At number 5, Far Cry 4 adds elephants, mountains, gyrocopters, and a ton of new side missions to up the ante. An intimidating selection of weapons are but mere options in an open world that does a better job of exploiting all-out freedom in a Far Cry game. Whilst the mountains in the distance there cannot be reached, tackling the game's outposts and fortresses gave way to incredibly diverse outcomes that were made even more unpredictable thanks to a fully integrated cooperative system for the game's side content. True, the game in most ways became a regurgitation of its predecessor, and its narrative failed to capture what Ubisoft had set out to accomplish. But through a shiny set of new toys and an immensely gorgeous Himalayan setting, the violent hilarity of playing Mega Rambo was undeniably fun and a bit more over the top this time. But the sequel had better up its game. Just more explosions are not gonna cut it. At number 4, the role-playing game that relishes in the misery of dying over and over and over again, Dark Souls 2. In a depressingly dark kingdom of horribly inventive areas, bosses, and monsters, newcomers may be pleased to know that Dark Souls 2 is slightly more accessible this time around, but not by much. The sequel may not prove as creative as the first game, but the experience is as brutal and harrowing as ever. So why should anyone invest a total of 80 hours striving to beat the game? Well, in the pursuit of superior armor and weapons, Dark Souls becomes one of the most tremendously rewarding titles you can play. The challenges of discovering your own playstyle whilst mastering the timing of dodging and reacting to enemy attack patterns becomes something of an obsession. In the ultimate display of skill, Dark Souls 2 is one of the most unorthodox, adrenaline-pumping gameplay feats anyone could hope to play. A definitive adventure that beats you down relentlessly, forcing the player to learn from their mistakes. And it's worth it. At number 3, the one game to rule them all. Or all other movie-licensed games, perhaps. Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. Serving as a worthy bridge between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, the game could be taken as a stylish mix between Assassin's Creed-esque free-running mechanics, wonderfully fused with a sleek Batman-inspired free-flowing combat system. Talion takes on the entire Mordor garrison of orcs and generals, making great use of the game's hellish environment with a range of unlockable combos.
But the war chief's not dead.
I'm going to go kill him!
The narrative wasn't all that riveting, but thanks to the Nemesis system, captains could rise through the orcish ranks, growing that much stronger as a direct consequence of the player's failures, creating for some truly epic, personalized rivalries.
Is this some kind of joke? I killed you already!
Simply put, the game swept players off their feet with its glorious Nemesis system that rewarded gamers with one of the most satisfying experiences this year, that even managed to exceed gamers' expectations. At number 2, bouncing back with a game that learns from the mistakes of its predecessor, Dragon Age Inquisition. The problems of the previous game were many, one of which was the ludicrous decision to scale back upon the size, customization, and scope of the RPG. This time around, the world is huge, sprawling across an open desert, lush elven forests, a rain-battered coastline, and more, all of which provide for an immeasurable amount of exploration and loot hunting, not unlike a single-player MMO. Charged with leading an entire Civil War Inquisition, elements of power and influence create for some interesting strategic play in the war room. Other choices can lead to some incredibly meaningful outcomes, some of which equate to life or death. Countless hours can be lost in a fully extensive crafting system for your weapons, to be used in awesomely bright and colourful battles against dragons and demons. The game was not without its problems, however, including but not limited to a barely functional tactical camera, a poorly optimised PC version, and all with a multiplayer that seemingly felt tacked on. But in the power, valor, and glory of upgrading your fortress and exploring character quests and relationships, I could spend hours praising Inquisition for what it got right. You may very well lose yourself in the lands of Thedas for hundreds of hours to come.
I'm glad you're laughing. You like it.
And finally at number 1, the epitome of horror survival and movie license success, Alien Isolation. After the atrocities committed by Gearbox's Alien's colonial marines, all hope was surely lost. But no, strategy game developer Creative Assembly has finally captured what makes a xenomorph so scary. All we needed was just the one alien that could diligently but unpredictably hunt the player in the terrifying environment of alien sci-fi. Thanks to a heavy reliance upon hiding and crafting, as well as the fact that most weapons are near useless.
Come on! Come on! I'll have you.
Isolation is a true horror survival game as a result, that is capable of rendering the most tense, stressful, pants-wetting moments in the genre. Even the working Joe androids manage to instill a cold shuddering feeling down your neck before the uncompromising, ridiculously dynamic in nature, extremely deadly xenomorph rips your face off. This has been Jazz for JazReviews with the top 10 best games of 2014. I'm guessing that everyone watching uses the internet. Tab for a Cause stands for one of the most brilliantly simple methods of raising money for charity, conveniently. But how? It's a browser app. You open a tab and that's it. You've automatically generated real cash thanks to a small ad on the right there. This money can then be donated to whatever cause you deem fit. It's surprisingly effective and easy to use. I've bookmarked just about every shortcut I would use normally in the center of the homepage. You can also change the background if you so wish. Please do click the link in the description below and get tabbing right away. I'm pretty sure a number of Africans will really appreciate it, thank you. But until next time, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks a bunch for watching and I'll see you in the comments. You guys rock.